We're gonna try the lab mic today. Does my hair even make sense? When flipping a house, it can be exhausting to figure out exactly what to do and where to put your budget, or even what house to buy. In this video, I'm going to be showing you my top tips to maximize resale value within a budget when flipping a house. I'm going to be using this house as an example that we bought in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. We bought for $198,000, put on the market 6 weeks later, and got an offer for $325,000, which is a 65% improvement in price in a 6-week span. Well, how do we do that? We applied these tips that I'm going to show you right now. Now, this is going to be a philosophical, big picture approach to flipping that you can apply in your own way to your own market, to your own decisions, to your own budget, to what you're doing. So tip number one is you want to find a house with character, okay? You don't necessarily want that cookie cutter rancher style house because there's a limit to what you can do. Because remember, what you're doing here is you're making a unphotogenic house photogenic, because that's how people buy houses these days, the same way they scroll everything else as they scroll through houses. So you want to make something that's going to make them stop. Now, what you're looking for is a house that has something special, something different about it, okay? You're looking for a house that has a uniqueness, and what you're going to do is you're going to harness that uniqueness, or else you have a box that you're just doing a formula with, which can work, but we want to jump ahead of that a little bit. And also, you need to know what market you're in. Are you in a getaway market, kind of like the woods, where the city folk are going to come out and they're going to want something that's going to be different from what they had? They're going to want that farmhouse look or that special getaway. They're going to want to be immersed in the woods. Or are you in the city where somebody might want to come in and have that city look, and it's going to be like New York or whatever it is, any metropolitan area, and there's a specific look to that. Are there short-term rental buyers in this market? Because if you're in this market where there's short-term rental buyers, where the housing prices have been propped up by that, then that's a whole other opportunity, because you can harness that with experiences, hot tubs, string lights that are Instagrammable, all this stuff. It's a whole different thing. So you need to have your end buyer in mind, and you want to find a house that has something unique, that's been dirty and you can clean up and sweep up like an 80s montage. You need to find those moments, those places. And a lot of times, FYI, those are the houses that have been sitting on the market for a while. I don't know why they fall through the cracks. And then it's almost like, oh, it's been on the market too long, we don't want to touch it. So I want to take a moment now to introduce Deerwood, which is the house that we flipped. We initially bought it. It was so cute on the outside. And I don't use that word lightly. It was a cute house. It had this weird, unique roundness to it in the woods. It had plenty of space and trees around it, beautiful deck. The inside looked like your standard grandma house, as if Disneyland had designed a house for grandma. But I could tell this house had so much potential, and I could instantly see the things we could do with it. It had fallen out of escrow, but yeah, we jumped on it and we got it. We ended up going in at asking. I believe it was $198 or $199. When we were done with it, it was a completely different animal. It was unrecognizable. And we used the 4 walls, the ceiling, and the floor as a canvas. And we just painted that canvas. We opened up everything. We used the view. We replaced sliders that were foggy with glass. I literally did that myself. Now, all of a sudden, one of these walls is just a big picture of the outside. Well, all we did was replace sliders with glass. We put new flooring in, and we used the ceiling. The ceiling is another wall, it's another canvas. And look how much different this looks than when we started. And this house had that potential. So this leads us into number 2, which is, regardless of budget, independent of budget, you need to organize everything you can possibly do to that house in terms of value added to dollars spent. Now this kind of makes sense, right? We all know that people like good bathrooms and good kitchens. They're expensive and it needs to be done. You can't flip a house with a crappy bathroom or a crappy kitchen, but there's all kinds of things you can do. There's an unlimited number of things you can do when flipping a house. And you need to figure out what's going to give you the steepest upward trend of resale value for the dollar spent doing it. And we want to be smart with that. We want to do whatever's going to be the most cost effective. So I always have this graph in my head, I don't know where it came from, where everything is organized with the most steep increase in value to dollars spent on the left. And as you go up, you get diminishing returns. You get to a point where you're putting money in, but you're not raising any value. And that just has to do with the market, the house itself, a bunch of other factors. And you need to kind of organize that stuff. And this is another thing, is it's going to get your juices flowing, because there's going to be stuff that you aren't thinking about in the beginning, but they're there. And these is going to be things like what you can do for an accent wall, beyond just redoing the floors and remodeling the kitchen and everything else that we see cookie cutter style. You need to get creative a little bit here, and that's going to get your mind thinking about that. And that graph's going to be more and more full of stuff as you organize it up. And so you're going to be focusing and prioritizing the things that are on the far left side of that graph, because there's going to be a point where you say, okay, we're done. This is our budget, and we're going to be increasing the value, and then things are going to level off, and we're not going to focus on that stuff, because we want to get to as close to maximum value as we can without spending maximum dollar. And you can look up research on this stuff, but you kind of know in your head how this is going to work, and it's going to get you thinking. So how do we get these ideas? We want to flip this house. There's a cutting edge of design that doesn't alienate people. It's not too modern, it's not too crazy, but it's great. And where do you find this stuff? So I like to personally go to Instagram or Google image search and just put in some keywords on what I'm doing. So for Deerwood here, I knew that this was a place that was an hour 45 minutes from DC. So a lot of these people are going to be getting away from the city, and they're going to want to think of that country setting. So I started to search on Google and Instagram just for all kinds of keywords that had to do with that: country kitchen, country bathroom, country living room, farmhouse, modern this and that, and kind of playing around with keywords and seeing what I liked. And I would take screenshots and save these. But the point is, I was using social media and the power of the internet to get to where I wanted to go and to be my inspiration. I know that I'm not the world's greatest designer. I've gotten better over the years, but it's not my natural point. So I need to use other people's work to inspire me. And that's kind of what you're doing. You're using other people's talent to find where yours lies. And this whole thing is an education. And so what we did was we kind of searched around until we found puzzle pieces that fit in with what we were doing, fit in with the vision of the house. And that vision kind of evolves over time as you think about it. You need to spend several days doing this, and you're going to need to find your vision for the house. But don't get frustrated. Just keep looking and say, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. You'll find color palettes, and you'll find all kinds of things that start to fit together, and you'll start to get excited. You need to use other people's talent to find where yours lies. It'll help with your inspiration. Don't just do what everybody else has done. So this leads us into number 4, which is don't go cookie cutter. Look, the best example I have is these gray on gray remodels where just please stop doing that. Just stop it. It's gonna look outdated so fast. Actually, there was a house in my parents' neighborhood that was up for sale, and the remodel had clearly been done by somebody that there was no creativity there. It was like you're taking beautiful, interesting ideas and just taking the saturation out of them. The Wizard of Oz was cool when all of a sudden it became color. If you're scrolling through a bunch of pictures of houses for sale, the gray thing is not going to catch your eye. It's the interesting things that are going to catch your eye. Don't desaturate life. Don't turn the saturation filter all the way down on life. Don't do it with a house. Like I said, in the age of scrolling, where everybody's scrolling, you need to find things that are going to stop people from scrolling, and that's what you're looking at. Cookie cutter does not do it. Cookies are delicious. Make interesting cookies. An example here is if we go through the house in Deerwood, you see every room in the house has accent walls. Even if it was paint, it's cheap to paint a wall. And it's also cheap to paint 2 colors on a wall. You can create some sort of mural. You can create some sort of geometric shape if you want. This one, we literally took 1x2s, put them on there, and painted them. And then at the end I said, why don't we paint that center triangle orange? And it looked cool. And it completely changed that room. If you look at this room before and after, besides the floors and the paint, which were relatively inexpensive, and you can DIY floors. There's some details in there that you need to learn, but you can do floors yourself. You can paint the walls, you can put cool art on the wall, and you can create something like this, which is relatively inexpensive, and it completely transforms everything. And all of a sudden we have some throw pillows that we got on Amazon, an accent chair, and this room is completely unrecognizable from how it was. And my last tip is think about what you're not gonna do. Okay, you don't have to do everything. The budget will blow out so fast if you do everything. There's certain things in the house that you need to leave alone. So for Deerwood, we had these counters in the kitchen, and I tried to keep them. It would be so much easier to keep them, but we just couldn't. So we had to change it. I actually bought this butcher block and made these counters and installed them myself, but it was such a big upgrade, we had to do it. And the kitchen's an important place. We were able to paint the cabinets, and we were able to do a backsplash. That tile was super cheap, and we did floating shelves. Those were leftover butcher block that we had from the counters. Yeah, this wasn't an expensive remodel of this kitchen, but it is completely transformed. But there's other parts of the house that maybe you can leave alone. There's certain things that you can hide. There's certain things that you don't need to do. You need to focus on making the best pictures you can, because pictures sell houses, right? It gets people interested. It's that scrolling through Zillow or Redfin or whatever it may be, and they stop and go, oh, that's amazing. And look at this picture. This picture draws your eye. When you look at remodels, if you look at flips, you walk through, you can actually see things that are original and weren't touched. but you almost go like, oh, that's fine because this looks so spectacular. So you need to think in terms of pictures, and sometimes in a picture, the more you look at it, the more you recognize. When you first look at the picture, what draws your eyes to it and what can you leave alone? And that's gonna be healthy on your budget. Focus on popping things, create a vision over time, be patient, find what other people have done that looks amazing and adapt that to what you're doing. And don't be afraid to take a swing, because those are the ones that usually pay off. You can hit singles or you can hit triples and home runs a lot more if you're able to take a little bit bigger of a swing. And you can do that in ways that are smart and don't break the bank, and don't be afraid to DIY some stuff because it's fun. And when I was 18, 19, 20, I was building houses and I learned a ton, and that knowledge is super useful. So the house on Deerwood, I haven't gotten into too much detail, but that's gonna be a separate video where I go into the entire flip, the finances of it and everything. And yeah, it was fun walking around a Sasquatch uniform. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.